just a reminder. Yep, Andrew has now hit the button. The recording has started. And again, you are not required to participate in the recording of the May meeting of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. If you do not wish to appear on the recording, you may keep your camera off. You may change your name as it is presented on the Zoom, and you may submit your questions through the chat. The recording for this video will be available for viewing on the jeffreyspoint.org website and is hosted on YouTube. So it is publicly available. In addition to the website recording, we will also have the meeting minutes and the presentations that you see here this evening. And with that, thank you. That's a reminder that if everyone could keep themselves on mute. With that, my name is Margaret Farmer, and I welcome you this evening to the May meeting of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself?
I am Rachel Bloomerth. I am the other co-chair of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Huang. I am the vice chair, and I'll be doing the slides tonight. Andrew?
I'm Andrew Pike. I'm the treasurer, and I will be handling the chat this evening. Welcome, everyone. Mary?
I'm Mary Cole, and I will be taking notes. I'm the secretary.
Great. And Andrew, do you want to do the attendance check for the two people on the phone?
Sure. Right now, I see someone ending in the last four digits of 7570. If you'd like to let us know who you are so we can record it for the meeting.
Yes, hi, I'm Marie Pepe Long. I live at 221 Everett Street. I'm in the butter.
Okay, thank you, Marie. And then the other one is a last four digits of 0153. Sounds familiar. If you'd like to unmute yourself and let us know who you are.
Sorry. Ian Belmonte, 221 Everett Street, apartment 2.
Thank you very much, Ann. And I'm going to mute both of you, but if you'd like to speak later, I will unmute you. And go ahead, Margaret.
Great. And thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. We have a few announcements tonight. The first is that we do have a change to our agenda this evening. 231 Everett Street the vote has been postponed because we are not voting on them this evening. They have been removed from the agenda. We still have the other three development presentations this evening, but 231 Everett Street has been postponed.
Not 230, 231.
231, not 230. Thank you very much. Also, a reminder in case you haven't realized that the Blue Line closure has been extended until sometime this week. The MBTA is unsure exactly when the Blue Line will open back up for trains, but it is going to be closed for several days this week. The good news is that the ferry is guaranteed until Friday. So if you would like to take a boat ride, either on your way to or from work that happens to end by your house, you can do that until Friday. Then the time frame will remain the same. Just so everyone knows, the ferry has been incredibly popular. Last Thursday, they had a ridership high of 2,000 people. And now I'm sure many of you are asking yourself, why should I ride the ferry? Why does that matter? Well, the truth is that the Sumner Tunnel is going to close this summer for the weekend, during the weekends for construction and maintenance. And we want to have a ferry running during the weekends to help alleviate some of the backup that's going to occur on the Blue Line while the construction is going on. So the more people who ride the ferry today on their way to work will encourage the MBTA to have the ferry service run this summer while the Sumner Tunnel is closed. And then hopefully we have enough people who ride in the summer that we'll be able to fight for having a ferry as a permanent fixture in East Boston. So please consider riding the ferry. It takes off from Lewis Wharf and lands over by the aquarium and goes about approximately every 20 minutes. And it's very fast. It's about an 8-minute ride. So we encourage everyone to stay on there. Moving on the announcements, the JPNA will be holding a neighborhood cleanup on May 21st from 9 to 11 a.m. We are asking everyone to meet at Brophy Park. Everyone is invited to join in on the fun. Thank you. Susan, our wonderful vice chair, has posted the flyer. We have it available in both English and Spanish if you know of anyone you'd like to share it with. Everyone is welcome to join us. We will be providing supplies, including trash pickers and trash bags, and everyone is welcome to attend. A reminder that Zoomix has a fundraiser coming up this week or not this week, but is coming up this month on Saturday, May 14th from 7 to 10 p.m. It's an evening of music, local vendors, and all ages fun. It will be at the Zoomix Firehouse, which is at 260 Sumner Street. And information and tickets can be found on Eventbrite. A formal announcement this evening is that the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association will have elections in June, which is next month. This announcement is the second step as part of this 3-month process. Later on in this meeting, as a part of the meeting itself, as opposed to part of the announcements, we will open nominations. And that means that anyone who is interested in running can be nominated by either themselves or someone else who's attending here at this meeting. And then if the person accepts the nomination, they will be included in the ballot, which we will vote on next month online. As a reminder, nominations once opened remain open until the start of the candidate presentations at the monthly meeting next month. So we will officially open nominations and then leave them open. We will have time during the meeting twice today to nominate anyone who you believe would be interested. A reminder that we do have open seats for the election this year. We are grateful for our board members who have done an incredible amount of hard work, especially with COVID and everything that's been going on. So we thank them for their service. But unfortunately, we do need to move forward and have an election. If you are interested and have questions or concerns or want to know more about what it's like to be on the board, you are welcome to speak with any board member that you are comfortable talking with, or you can contact the board at our email address at board@jeffreyspoint.org. And again, we will have nominations later on in this meeting. Also, if you are interested in supporting the JPNA, but maybe don't have the time commitment for a full-time board position, please consider volunteering to assist with future monthly meetings. As COVID is fluctuating, the board is discussing going back to a hybrid setup, and we realize that we need some assistance with either bringing equipment to a meeting, setting up, or running the meeting. We're looking for several people who would be interested so that this can be rotated. Time and dates are still to be determined. If you're interested, feel free to contact any board member or email us at board@jeffreyspoint.org. A quick reminder about voting is that we use e-ballot to manage the voting process online. To be eligible to vote at a monthly meeting, you must be present at this meeting and either reside within a 300-foot radius of a project address and be considered an abutter, or a resident within the JPNA boundaries and have attended one prior meeting to this meeting within the past 3 months. If you have questions about voting, again, you are welcome to contact a board member or send an email. We will make announcements at the end of this meeting, reminding everyone about when the ballots will be released and when they will be collected and due. I'm sure you all be happy to hear that that is the end of the announcements. So we will move over to hearing from Officer Santolo. And if he's here this evening, Officer Tommy Domenico, who we welcome and thank for being here this evening.
Hi, thank you, Margaret. Unfortunately, Tommy's not with us tonight. We're again experiencing some COVID issues up here. So I'm going to be very brief and I'm going to get myself tested. I'm hoping it's the allergies that my symptoms are. They're very light. So very quickly, I went through the reports. I didn't see anything major going on. I see a couple of arguments and fights, roommates, landlord, tenants, very minor fights, arguments. But I do have an announcement. We have a new captain again. Captain Dean Bickerton is a newly promoted captain. But you got happy to hear. He called me in his office today. First thing he said was, I want to meet the community members, the groups, and that was his major issue. And come all the way up from Superintendent Long. So he wants to meet everybody and make sure that we keep good contact with all these community groups. The catalytic converters are still we still have those deaths going on. Anybody has any cameras the Ring cameras, anything in the area. If your neighbor has theirs stolen, please check your cameras. We're trying to catch the people doing it. They're very expensive, very dangerous. If you don't know it's gone, it's from what I read, it's to keep the toxic gas from getting into your car. So please keep an eye on that. Also on your neighbor's cars. I don't have anything else. It's been actually a good month up in Jeffrey's Point, but I will take questions if anybody has any.
Sergeant Santolo, I wanted to bring up an item that I had brought up previously. Now that the Quiet View has added their patio back for the summer, we're seeing cars fly through the intersection of Sumner and Cottage Street. I think part of there are two very visible stop signs there. One of them gets blocked because of the patio a bit, but there is another one. I'm gonna try and see if I can contact someone at BTD to see if we can get them to put like the word. You can please make sure yourself is muted so that we can continue the meeting. Thank you, everyone. If we could get BTD to put the word stop on the street, I think it might be helpful, but people are just blowing through that intersection like at full speed, like not even stopping. So it would be great to see some police presence, maybe if possible, at that intersection in the early evening. That's I only happen I go there every Friday. Everybody knows.
Yep.
So it's something I just happen to notice when I'm sitting out there, and I'm sure it happens more often than when I'm there. So,
Of course. So what are the times you're thinking that are the most?
Like between like 5 and 7 is when I tend to notice it. But someone's going to get hurt there. People frequently walk out without looking there, and because they feel like someone's going to stop, and right now they're just blowing through that intersection. So we can get BPD to do some more with some signage and maybe some painting on the street. I think it would be great to have somebody there to pull some people over and remind them that there's a stop sign there.
So also you're saying patio is actually blocking the stop, right?
It's blocking the one on the right hand side because they have umbrellas that go up, and I haven't really looked at it from my car to see how much it blocks it and whether that's even the problem. But the main issue is people blowing through the intersection.
Issue going on, so we'll take care of that part. Down the umbrella, have those. Just ask them like that certain umbrella down. But yeah, if we take care of that, we'll I'll mention it to the captain and the night commander, and we'll get right on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, let me make sure there's nothing in the notes. I'm not doing my job here.
Could I ask Officer Santola a question, please?
Is this
is the phone.
yes, because you're on the phone, yes, you may.
I just want to know with the work that's going to be done at the Sumner Tunnel beginning in June. I live on Everett Street, and we'll probably see a lot of traffic on this street because everybody can go through the Maverick Street gate. Has there been any provisions that are going to be implemented for that? And plus, they fly up the street like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, we can definitely monitor the speeding, but as of who can use Everett Street, we really can't control that. But we'll definitely monitor it in June and make sure that if you are going to travel to our neighborhood, you're going to abide by the safety rules.
Could there be a sign that says your speed is, like they have in other parts of the city or something, but someone's going to get hit out here?
Yeah, so on we can, but I think it would have to be like a major problem. We can monitor that and then determine if we need one.
Okay,
so
thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll sit there for a few nights, and if there is a regular occurrence that they're speeding down there, of course we can do that.
Thanks, Ian. We do have a question in the chat for you as well. Oh, sorry, it's actually not for you. Never mind.
That is okay. That is okay. Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate that. Thank you, Officer Santolo, for being here this evening and answering our questions. I am sure people will not forget what they asked you this evening. So we will check in again next month and see how things are going.
And as always, I've got email, phone number, call me whenever. If you want to chat, call me, email me. And have a nice.
Thanks,
Thank you
Sergeant.
so much. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Up next, we are joined by Nathalia Benitez, who is our representative from the Mayor's Liaison. And hopefully she will introduce her cat who is behind her, because that is because your cat is super cute. I'm just saying.
She steals the show all the time. She does this to me every single meeting. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all this evening. I have a few updates from the mayor today. So actually today, Mayor will announce 2 programs to increase access to renewable energy and energy efficiency in East Boston. You know, an environmental justice neighborhood facing some of the highest levels of industrial pollution in the region. So basically, it's the Solarize EST program, which is a pilot program designed to increase solar panel installations and battery storage in the community by reducing barriers for low and moderate income residents to participate. Basically, the program will use a collective purchasing model to reduce costs for residents by aggregating demand and securing a discounted price per watt. It would offer 15% discount below the average cost of solar installation, which upfront subsidizes available for income eligible building owners at no cost options. Of course, the city is partnering with Green Roots to launch this program. I will put the link on the chat so Andrew can share with you all. All right. And the other thing I had for you tonight is that phase 2 of the mayor's waterfront initiative is close to completion. I know there's a lot of questions on, you know, what this initiative looks like and what entails. So once the environment department releases phase 2, I'd like to bring someone from the environmental team and have them present the initiative to the residents and answer any questions anybody may have, because I know this is very, very, very important for all East Boston, but especially for Jeffers Point. And I'll take any questions if anybody has a question.
I know that the mayor's coffee had to be canceled due to weather. Do you have an idea when that's going to be rescheduled for?
So because this is a Parks Department event, I don't know when it's going to be rescheduled. I heard that it's probably going to be in June.
Okay.
That's all I heard, but they're still working with the mayor's agenda and her scheduling and parks. So as soon as I know something, I will blast it out, I promise. Thank you.
No problem. Do you have any other questions?
Okay, so this isn't really directed towards you, but I'm going to say it anyways. Can pedestrian lights be installed at the 2 entrances of Pierce Park? Vehicles are speeding down Marginal Street.
At Pierce Park? Okay. So because
pedestrian,
Pierce Park,
I'm not sure what they mean by pedestrian lights. Maybe the fact like where people are crossing is, I think that's maybe what they mean.
Yeah, like the crossing. So when someone approaches the crosswalk, the lights start blinking. So that it like really draws attention that there's a pedestrian trying to cross the street.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's for the crosswalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me.
And while we're at it, I don't know, since that's a BTD thing, did you hear what I was saying about before?
Yeah, for the stop, I did put a note on it, so I'm planning.
It would be great if they could paint the word stop there, because I think that that's part of the problem. But
and that's an easy solution, so I don't think they're gonna say no to that. So
I would hope that yeah, it's an easy solution.
I will bring it to them tomorrow and see what they say, and then I'll update you guys on that.
Awesome, thank you.
All right.
Also, as a quick update, last month, you were asked about a handicap parking space that was on Everett Street. And just as an update to everyone who had asked that question, Nathalia did send an email letting us know that that they had done an investigation and that BTD would remove the sign because the person who put in the I don't want to say complaint, but the person who pointed it out was correct that the handicap parking space had not been in use in at least 2 years. So that that should be removed by now.
Yeah, it's in the queue. If it hasn't been removed by now, it's in the queue for BTD to remove, and they're pretty quick on turnout. So if it hasn't been removed yet, probably it'll get removed this month.
There were
not, let me know.
sorry, there were a couple other questions in the chat that I missed. I apologize. Somebody is mentioning here that a block party that is happening this week.
Oh, yes. Is that Bea Jimenez?
Yes.
Okay, so she will probably want to invite you all herself because she's in front of that.
Hey, everybody. Out of all of the fun things that are happening here, I feel like mine is probably the most fun. So no, but thank you to Nathalia. She shared this neighborhood association meeting happening tonight, and I just wanted to pop in really quickly. There's a block party happening this weekend at Addison Street. This is 144 Addison. And this is actually an opportunity for all of you to come and not only see this new development, but actually this came from the community benefits agreement that the developer agreed to. So many folks like you, possibly some of you in this room right now, asked for events that were family friendly and in the community. And one of the things that came out of the project was folks feeling that they needed to leave Eastie on the weekends in order to do something with their families, so that we really wanted programming. That's what came out from those public meetings a few years ago when the project was getting permitted. So here we are, the project is up and running. Addison opened in October, and this would be the first event. So I would love to invite all of you. This is really for all of you, for Eastie residents and families. We have Veronica Robles, who is going to perform. We have some Zumba classes and tons of free food and free activities for all ages. So I would love to see you all there. And like I said, this is something that the community really asked for. So it's definitely for you.
Awesome,
Great.
thank you.
Could you tell us what date and time it's going to be?
Oh yeah, good.
Yep, thank you. So it's Saturday, this Saturday, May 14, and the weather looks phenomenal. So I think we'll be lucky on that end. And the time is from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. And as I mentioned, there's going to be plenty of food. Everything is free and open to the public.
There are some flyers that are both in Spanish and English that I have them. I can share them with the association too.
Great, thank you
so much.
The next question was, and I actually want to know this too. What is the timing for the reopening of the Perez Street pool? There's been no information on their website or anything. Last time I asked somebody, I heard something about June, but that doesn't seem likely.
It was said to be June, but it keeps getting pushed. So I don't have a definitive date, but I've been on top of that.
Okay.
But it keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, which is the same issue that we continue to have with the police station. It just
Are they having like supply issues, like that type of thing, like normal construction things?
Everything is taking longer than it should be taking. So
okay. All right, let me make sure I didn't miss something. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much. And as always, if people have questions, we encourage you to reach out to us or to reach out to Nathalia directly. And I will point out, she did not introduce her cat, but hopefully next month. That's okay, we forgive you. So now, so thank you very much. So now I stated that this was coming. I would like to state that as part of the meeting, as we are out of the announcements and in the agenda itself, that nominations are officially open for the board for the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. A quick reminder that they open this month. They're open until next month, until candidates start presenting to the community, at which point they will be voted on. And then the official installation happens in September. So after the meeting next month in June, the board and the new person or people who are elected will have several months to have a transition and training period, which we find incredibly useful. And you are running for a seat on the board, and then the board meets to have a conversation together with the new people coming in. I can remind everyone to mute themselves. We got one more that needs to mute themselves, please. You are running for a seat on the board itself, and then the board meets and have a discussion with the new person to see where they believe that would be a good fit and what are the responsibilities for each position. As an example, co-chair may not be the best choice for someone who's never been on the board before. But someone who is not very technologically advanced might not want to be in the secretary position, because a lot of that position does work updating our website, traditionally doing social media, putting together the ballots. So that's why we're not saying, oh, this position is open. We're saying a position is open. But you are welcome to say out loud or put into the chat if there's anyone that you would like to nominate. And we will keep this open for 2 minutes. And at 7:30, we will move on. And then we will have a moment at the end of the meeting as well, if people would like to nominate at that time. Andrew, do you have anybody who submitted through the chat?
I'm just waiting.
Okay. And once someone is nominated, they do need to accept the nomination in order to be on the ballot next month.
I just would like to mention, there's a couple of people who keep unmuting themselves. If you could please not do that, because there's a lot of back noise that happens when you do that, unless we ask you to do so. Thank you. Right now, the only person who has been nominated in the chat is Joshua Schmidt. And I don't even know is he on here tonight?
I didn't see him, but if he's here, Joshua, you can unmute yourself so we can ask you to.
No, I don't see him.
Okay, I don't see him either.
But he emailed us as well, so
Okay.
he does want to run.
Okay.
Nobody else out there? Come on.
Well, we'll leave it open for another minute. While we have it open, I'd like to recognize that Thomas Mannion from from City Councilor at Large, Aaron Murphy's office.
Talk. What do you want me to talk about? Talk. What?
Okay.
Eric, did you want to nominate anybody for the board?
Should be done through the chat.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tom Mannion from Councilor Murphy's office. Thank you for having me on. Did you want me to give a couple updates or just say?
No, we just wanted to recognize that you were here as we had a quick minute.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yep.
No problem. Eric, you put yourself back on mute. Did you want to nominate someone?
Hold on. Hold on 1 second, Eric. You got to unmute yourself now, though.
Yeah, you need to.
It won't let me do it.
Here we go. I'll nominate Mark. I'm all set, thank you.
Mark Savatsky?
Yeah, there you go.
He doesn't live here anymore.
I know, he doesn't live here.
Well,
he had to move to get off this board.
Depends how the vote goes tonight, right? You know, I can come back. I build fast.
No, not at this time. I don't have anybody to nominate right now.
Okay, no problem. No problem. And then also, as we have 1 minute, I did see Owen Kane from State Rep Montero's office as well. If there's anyone else who is here in representing an elected official and I missed you, please let us know through the chat and we will be happy to make sure that we recognize you. Okay, with that, I will just remind everyone, it is 7:31, so we're going to move on the agenda. However, nominations remain open until next month. So if you are interested or know of anyone else who might be interested, please let us know. And we are happy to have you on the ballot.
And if you could please email board@jeffreyspoint.org, not an individual board member, unless you're more comfortable with that scenario, but board@jeffreyspoint.org is the best.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. So moving on to the next item on our agenda, we do have Tailwinds this evening. As many people know, Tailwinds started having flights go out of the shipyard earlier this summer, and the board received multiple questions from people in the community wanting to know more about both of the company and things around the company and had questions. We thought the best way to address them would be to invite Tailwinds to come and speak to us this evening. Speaking this evening on behalf of Tailwinds are Gabriela Salas, Peter Manice, and Chief Seaplane Captain Stephanie Lind. They do have a presentation, which Susan's going to put forth. And then afterwards, we will have questions. You are welcome to submit questions through the chat during the presentation. Thank you. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Manice. I'm joined by Gabby Salas, who is our Director of Sales in Boston. Stefan unfortunately could not join us. He actually had a flight that was running a little long and is not going to make it out of out of the left seat. I wanted to thank, first of all, Mary Cole and Margaret Farmer for helping to organize this and to invite me to come and speak with you. We've enjoyed becoming a part of the Boston area and the neighborhood. I wanted to say too, I thought the block party sounded pretty interesting. I think we'd be very happy to donate a round trip ticket to New York as a raffle item. I'm not sure if someone could just reach out to me after the meeting, and we can help coordinate that. So we'd be happy to help out if that creates some interest. Thank you for having us. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I know there's other things on the agenda. We're Tailwind Air. We're the seaplane operator that's in the harbor that you probably all have seen from time to time. We are a veteran-owned business motivated by a passion for aviation and urban mobility. We were founded in 2012, and we are experienced in amphibious seaplane operation. And our main purpose is to deliver basically faster solutions to the destinations we serve. Primarily, that's to Manhattan and New York City for Boston. And we take advantage of that by using waterways and smaller airports that are close to urban cores. In addition to our seaplanes, we also actually operate a number of jets and turboprops that are traditional land planes. We have about 20 in total in our total fleet. We're proud of our track record and especially our role in bringing the first ever seaplane route between Boston and Manhattan, and the first seaplane operations in the Boston Harbor since we believe about the 1930s. Who we are, we're based in Westchester, New York. That's just north of New York City. We have a base for our seaplanes in Bridgeport, Connecticut, as well as Plymouth, Massachusetts. So because of this route, we've opened up a base in the Massachusetts area, in the state of Massachusetts. That's actually where our seaplane, some of our seaplanes spend the evening, and where we have multiple crews now hired and trained. We're a stable, growing company, founded in 2012. Most of our operations are between New York and Boston. We have a number of other things. We have over 40 employees at this time, including dispatch, maintenance, pilots, management, and customer service folks, including several now in the Boston area. Just background, we're considered an FAA Part 135 air carrier, that we also have DOT commuter authority that essentially allows us, for the size aircraft that we run, to run commuter flights between on our seaplanes in the places that we choose to operate them. We have a letter of authority from the FAA and a process that we went through for multiple years leading up to this to land in Boston Harbor. We also have a commitment, of course, to the community. I'm trying not to just read the slides, so I have some kind of side notes I wanted to mention. But our main goal is to cut travel time in half or more. Our crews do the trip in about 75 minutes. We've been using a floating dock that's off of East Boston, kind of near the Hyatt Hotel over there. We use a Cessna Grand Caravan EX, which can land on both water and land. We have 2 pilot crews at all times. It's a turboprop aircraft. It has a range of about 325 miles when it's full of passengers. And that includes all the mandated reserve fuel required for flights of this type.
Peter, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think our membership actually would appreciate more detail as to your commitment to the community. And these items that you have here, if you'd like to explain a little more.
I'm sorry?
If you'd like to explain a little more, you said you didn't want to read the slide, but if you wanted to go into some more detail about your commitments to the community.
Yeah, so
till the end, yeah.
Yeah, we have, I mean, I can go straight, Gabby, if you want to just talk about how, what we've been doing for the community. We're very interested in community feedback. We've been operating now since August of last year. We don't operate between about mid-December and mid-March. And now we've been operating again. Specific to here, we've been growing, the number of people that we take.
No, but specifically your bullet point here about East Boston High School. What are you doing with East Boston High School?
If you could please just, Susan, if you can please go all the way to the very last slide, I will appreciate it.
Sure.
I can jump here, Peter, if you don't mind. And I want to say hello to everybody. It's such a well-attended meeting. I see some familiar names over there. Bessie King, hi. Well, we're very involved in the community, not only on the Tailwind side. I personally have a very deep love for East Boston. Right now, we are doing business and we're trying to partner with local businesses within the East Boston area. You can see there that we have our printer based in East Boston, ADV Studios, who is a woman-owned business, LGBTQ certified, and minority as well, because they're Hispanic. Our business is also thriving to create more jobs. We have sent out also with our partner, Veronica Robles Cultural Center, an invitation for some of the older students to apply for an internship job with us, paid internship, where we can also teach them, about STEM, about becoming a pilot or being in the marketing side of the business, sales. We want people to fall in love with what we're doing and our passion. And also we are also members of the Chamber of Commerce in East Boston, and we've done that since last year. What we're trying to do there is just to create some awareness on how we can develop the businesses locally and how they can commute from Boston to New York and vice versa. In order to grow that area. I mean, all the development that is happening in the marketplace, especially in that side of Boston, it's amazing. We have partnered with some of the restaurants like the Real House, the Shipyard. We do try to bring some of the outside clients, like from New York all the way to East Boston, rather than staying in the downtown area. So we're trying to communicate how important East Boston is for us. We also supported the East Boston High School with the sailing team. We donated about $2,500 just for them to start gearing up the students with safety uniforms and the boats. And we're up on top of that. We're trying to create more awareness on how we can help. I wrote down also on my list, I want to be a volunteer in my team. We're going to be a volunteer with you guys on the beach cleaning. We are all for that. So if there's anything else that we can know about and we can participate in support, we're happy to do so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. I mean, I could keep talking. I don't necessarily want to take up more time than necessary. I'm happy to answer questions. We did recently launch a service to Provincetown. We have been able to cut down, we've done a number of things. I'm happy to answer specifics or provide them before the questions are asked.
If there's a particular part of the presentation that you feel like is important to cover before we move to questions, we're happy to jump to that, but I do have questions in the chat if you'd like to just go move to that.
Sure. I mean, I would say, just generally, we're operating now 7 days a week. We operate during daylight hours only. We operate only during certain weather conditions, so fog and low clouds, things like that. We're not operating. We will not be operating on Saturdays and Sundays between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. from May until after Labor Day. That's per the agreement that we have. We've got now 4 destinations that we serve from Boston. The primary one being Manhattan. We have a couple of services out to Provincetown, which is our first kind of summer service. It's seasonal. We also offer daily service to Plymouth. And one-stop service actually to Eastern Long Island in the Hamptons via Manhattan. And we hope to add service as the community, as the demand increases.
Okay, so I'll just move to the questions that we have in the chat right now.
Sure.
Sorry, the screen just changed on me. Where'd it go? Sorry, when they close the presentation, it changes my whole screen. Apologies.
No, that's fine.
I think one quick note to add to this presentation also is it would be good to see that Tailwind, besides being a veteran-owned company, it's a huge, diverse employer. What I mean by that is, myself, I'm Latina, 100% Mexican, but our pilots are 40% women. So we are really looking forward to having some of that innovating technology going through all the minority businesses and potential candidates to participate and work with us.
Okay. Thank you for that. The first question in the chat is statement/question. You have expanded your flying schedule to include Providence and East Hampton as well as New York City. What regulatory review is involved when you expand your flight schedule, or are you able to arbitrarily increase the number of flights in Boston Harbor?
So as of now, there's no restriction on the number of flights that we can operate. We're expanding and the destination is Provincetown, not Providence, but we're expanding as demand warrants, really. We have not tried flying to summer destinations. So we're going to try a little bit of that this summer based on how people's travel patterns change during the summer season.
Okay. The second question is, when you presented to us last time in December 2020, you said that you'll be taking off and landing seaward of the Hyatt Hotel, which is also what you just showed us on your slide here.
Quick point of clarifications. I believe that was Cape Air, as Tailwinds has come in and Cape Air has gone out. So I just want to clarify that was a different company that presented at that time. I think the question is still valid in terms of like confirming where you
Yes.
landed.
And they also just showed it right now on their slides. They just showed it.
No, the question is valid.
Yeah.
I just want to, I don't want Tailwinds to be held responsible for something that a different company
That's
said.
why I said that it was just presented right now. You said that you would be taking off and landing seaward of the Hyatt Hotel. Many times your planes take off between the shipyard and the Hyatt, and that's much noisier for our neighborhood. Is there a reason why you're not taking off?
So to the extent that we can, we take off and land in a box that was in that presentation. There are times when the wind direction or potentially where air traffic control, so we're under direct control of the tower, may ask that we take off in another direction or maybe from a different area. I certainly can go back to our chief pilot and re-emphasize, to the extent, and if there's a consistent need to take off or land in a different area, we can maybe go back and figure that out. I would believe that's most likely the exception than the rule.
Okay. We've been told that you are now refueling your planes in the East Boston shipyard. Was this reviewed and approved by the Boston Conservation Commission? How is fuel reaching the shipyard? Will this increase truck traffic on Marginal Street?
So when it comes to the fueling situation, we are able to get fuel as any boat would from Harbor Fuels. I don't know anything about the logistics or have anything to add with how they run their operation. I would say for the neighborhood, being able to refuel our airplanes in the water actually cuts down on the total number of takeoff and landings. We routinely last year, before we had this ability, had to take off and go out and get fuel in Norwood and another airport and then come back in, which really just creates, 2 extra noise events or 1 if you're just counting the takeoff. So that in and of itself is actually a great efficiency on a number of fronts. I don't have specifics on anything related to fuel transportation on land.
Okay. Can East Boston residents access flights from the East Boston shipyard, or do we need to go to the seaport if we want to take a seaplane flight?
So it's a really great point. It's something we're looking to do. We do hope. We did expand to a new location in Rose Wharf. So now our water taxi goes and stops in 2 spots. We've actually considered adding a spot in East Boston. I actually would welcome community input as to maybe the best place. It's possible we could incorporate that into our schedule as long as it doesn't get, we can't make too many stops, or we end up adding a lot of time for everybody. But I think it would be great to offer that.
Okay. The next question is, why are they not using the permanent refueling space on the other side of the shipyard?
I don't know anything. I wouldn't be able to answer that. You'd have to ask Harbor Fuels. I'm not familiar with the exact setup there.
Okay, so that kind of goes along with that. Will you provide service to the main lakes region? Is that a consideration, I guess, is what they're looking at?
We have a number of other destinations on our route map. We're always open to charter requests or specific one-off flights. We don't have scheduled service planned at this time this year. The schedule that we have at the moment, which can be found on our website, flytailwind.com, is to the extent of the service we will offer to Boston for 2022. But we are adding to our fleet, and we hope to be able to expand that as we go.
The next person is asking, is there any chance that the Provincetown flights from Boston might leave at more favorable times in the future? Right now, they seem to leave Boston after 6 p.m. and leave P-Town around 6:30 a.m. I'd love to take it there, but those times are tough. You miss most of the day and you arrive, most of the day you arrive and all the day you leave.
Yeah, so, and this is in part because we're trying to maximize its utilization of our aircraft. In fact, the aircraft is really, it's going out at the end of the day. It's actually not increasing the total number of movements in the Boston Harbor. Where the plane, which essentially overnights and lives in Plymouth, is going out to Provincetown. Our service is designed, for probably more for commuters or people going out there every weekend. We do hope to add service. We think there's an enormous demand for a lot of these destinations, and we'll hope to retime things a little bit better as we go.
And there is another comment here that that this resident feels that the takeoff point is almost always the neighborhood side of the Hyatt and not the aforementioned area that was dictated. So that's the reason the question came
So
up.
I mean, I've flown it several times. I'm always coming up to Boston to meet people or do different things. That has never been the case when I've been on the aircraft. I can go and let me see if we can get some details. I don't know that we mark spots exactly when we take off. I certainly can go back and talk internally and see if we can identify ways that we can more consistently be a little bit more towards the airport side of the takeoff area.
I'm not a pilot or anything, but it does seem kind of odd that it's not like a change of direction or anything. It's just a change of location. And you can't do that on a regular airport. So the fact that you're able to just move around in the harbor wherever you please is obviously disconcerting to some. So
I'm a terrible pilot. I'm very rusty. I will say I do know that there are sometimes restrictions placed by Boston Tower depending on if the larger airplanes are approaching from certain angles. And so they need to take off before a certain point or end before a certain point. I'm not the best person to go into the details on that. I apologize if Stefan wasn't able to be on the phone. I'll try and provide more information that maybe you can share in a follow-up meeting with the neighborhood association.
Thank you very much. That was the last question.
Okay, great. Peter or Gabriella, can we ask either of you to put into the chat either an email address or a website or a way that if people have questions that they could contact you directly, or that if the board could use to follow up with, and preferably something you're okay with Andrew sharing through the chat with the general public.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, great. Again, thank you very much for being here this evening and answering our questions. I'm sure that there will be additional questions and we are happy to facilitate that conversation as well. But thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. So we are going to start off with the development portion of the evening. A reminder to everyone that after the presentation, so number one, while a presentation is going on, you are welcome to submit things through the chat. You do not have to wait till presentation is done. A reminder that as soon as a presentation is done, either Rachel or Andrew will read off the abutters who are present this evening, who have registered more than 24 hours in advance so that we could confirm that they were an abutter. And those are the people who are welcome to speak out loud. A reminder that we are going to try to end on time at approximately 8:30. So that gives us about 12 to 13 minutes per presentation, including questions. So a reminder to Attorney Linz, who is presenting all three projects this evening, that you've got about 5 or 6 minutes. We'll be starting this evening with 82 Webster Street. We will be voting on this. This was presented at one planning and zoning meeting, and it is a proposal to erect a roof deck exclusive to Unit 3. The developer is James. I'm going to apologize.
Yeah, it's Georgiopoulos.
George
That's a tough one. Yep.
Okay, and it is presented by Attorney Richard Linz this evening. Go ahead.
I apologize. I need to interrupt for 1 second. Peter, I'm sorry, Gabriella sent me an email and then you sent me an email. Which of those do you prefer? The community one?
The preferred one is community@flytailwind.com. That's monitored by more people.
Okay, all right. I'll put that.
If you want to email me directly, that's okay with me. I just sometimes my email gets really.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I wanted to ask. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Linz. I represent Mr. Georgiopoulos with respect to 82 Webster Street. As Margaret said, we did present this at a previous Planning and Zoning Subcommittee meeting. It's a very straightforward and simple proposal. If we could jump forward a few slides, that would be great. Okay, I'll start here. So real quickly, our zoning table, what we're proposing is just a roof deck. We're not changing anything with respect to the occupancy of the building or the footprint of the building itself. It sits on a very long lot. The dimensional setbacks that we're proposing for our roof deck actually comply. The only requirement, because we are altering the roof deck, is the interim planning overlay district, which is triggered anytime you're adding 1,000 or more square feet or changing the roof line of the building or the front facade. So essentially, all of the pre-existing conditions which exist on the property will remain. We are simply changing the roof to allow for an exclusive use roof deck for the upper level. We're proposing that to be accessed by hatch, no head house. So it'll be as low profile as can be. So why don't we jump right into the plans, Andrew? I think it's probably easiest to show that. There we go. So our plot plan shows the house with a very extensive backyard, roughly around 90 feet to the rear property line. So again, a very generous open space already existing in the rear. And our roof deck will be located somewhat off center, closer to the left side of the building. Next slide, please. The only modification would involve on the 3rd floor level. The 3rd floor unit would have a stairwell that will go up to the roof deck, which is again accessed throughout through the roof via hatch. And you can see the outline of the proposed roof deck on the roof. Next slide. So just in the front and rear elevations, you can see that offset again being shifted closer to the left side of the building. We do have a setback on the left side of the building. We are attached on the right side of the building. So we are providing a little bit of a buffer between our building on the right. If you jump to the next slide, we're actually setting the roof deck back 13 feet. The minimum setback would be about 7. So it's actually set back twice the minimum limit, barely visible from the street. And again, consistent with the design requirements under Article 53. Since our roof is under 35 feet, we do not violate any of the height restrictions for this neighborhood, and therefore the roof deck is permitted, again, provided that we're accessing by hatch and not by head house. Next slide. Just a quick overview where we're at. We did have an abutters meeting just before this meeting. We did have one abutter present, no significant comments. In fact, no issues whatsoever. Happy to answer any questions.
Apologies, mouse issues. Let's see here. Going to the abutters for this evening. These are people within the 300-foot radius that are allowed to speak out loud if they choose to do so and are in attendance. Andrew Smith, Lily Nichols, Zach Moquin, Michael Overmeyer, Patricia De Amore, Madeline Stasinski, Caitlin Narbonne, Stephen Manice, and Chris Morton. If you are present and wish to ask a question out loud, please raise your hand and we will call upon you. Let's see if I see any of those names in here. Only one I see so far is Caitlin. I don't know if you have a question you want to ask. Michael Overmeyer, you're here as well. Patty. Okay, I don't see any raised hands or any questions from those. That's not from somebody. But I do have a question in the chat. Why haven't any of the adjacent locations proposed a roof deck?
Great question. I have no idea. The zoning does permit a roof deck, especially if the buildings are under 35 feet. They would have to go through the process for an iPod permit. And again, I couldn't answer that question, but they certainly are entitled to request that and go through the process like anybody else.
One of the abutters says we'll allow it if they invite us over for a drink.
We can put that in as a proviso, Andrew. That's
there's another question. Okay, I'm not really sure what to do with that comment. I'll read it out loud just to do so. Just because abutters didn't attend a meeting, it does not indicate that there were no objections, as we get notices weekly which do not permit. I'm sorry, I don't understand the rest of this.
I mean, I can answer, Andrew. I mean, I explain what happened at the abutters meeting. If people don't attend, I'm not saying there were no objections from anybody. There were no objections at the abutters meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I understand now. The person was commenting specifically on what you said. Okay.
Yeah, and then, Nathalia was there, and Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services recorded who was present. We flyer for the meeting the same way we flyer for every abutters meeting. So I understand if people feel that they need to make a comment, they can certainly reach out to the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services on this and express it. They don't have to do it in a abutters meeting. They're more than welcome to contact the Mayor's office directly.
Excellent. Anybody else have any other comments? Make sure I didn't miss something by accident. No.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any raised hands. So, okay, we are going to move on as we still have two other projects coming later on in the agenda this evening. Next is 377 Maverick Street. Again, this is up for a vote, and we will review voting at the end of this meeting. This presented at one planning and zoning meeting previously. It is a proposal to change occupancy to 5 units, renovate the existing structure, extend the living space into the basement, and erect a rear addition with rear decks and also a roof deck. The developer is 377 Maverick Street LLC, and it is presented this evening by attorney Richard Linz.
Thank you, Margaret, and good evening again, everyone. Richard Linz, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston, on behalf of the petitioner. With me is William Lee with Manice French Design Studio. And let me just clarify a couple of things, Margaret. In the description, first, we are not proposing any longer to extend living space into the basement for this project. Secondly, we did originally, and we did show this to the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee as a proposed 4-unit building. We did attend an abutters meeting last week, where we did hear feedback from abutters to our right as well as the rear. There was concern certainly about the density and how many units we were proposing. And I know this is sort of a last minute change, but I will make the commitment on the record and provide, as I mentioned to Andrew, provide the plans after the meeting for the updates. We would propose to make this a 4-unit, not a 5-unit building. And I can walk through when I get through the plans quickly as to what that change would involve. So this is the proposal is, for clarification, a 4-unit building, changing from 3 to a 4 with the roof deck and the extension in the rear, but I'll run through that very quickly if that makes sense. So Andrew, if we could just jump to the next slide, I think that's the zoning table. Yeah, so real quickly here, we are proposing a change from a 3 to a 4. The 4 unit is considered multifamily, so that does require relief. These other items will also change. We don't really change the FAR even with the 4-unit that we're proposing. Proposed floor area ratio would be 1.57, and that's how much floor area we're proposing in relationship to the amount of ground space that we have, 3,000 square feet. So because that's exceeding the 1.0 that's allowed at 1.57, we do require relief for that. We comply with the building height. We're not changing our height above the 35-foot limit that's permitted. And we do maintain the usable amount of open space that's necessary, as well as the front yard. We do change with respect to the side yard. We have an existing condition on the right side of our building that's already non-compliant. That's at 0.85. Because we're extending the building back a bit, we're going to maintain that plane, and because we're not going any closer, but we're not pulling it in, we would require relief for that small portion of the addition that we're going to be within 2.5 feet of the side yard.
Richard, sorry to interrupt again, but do you have a refusal letter showing that the proposal is for 4 units?
We just agreed to update that from the abutters. Right now it's at 5 units for the refusal. We just agreed to update that based upon the abutters meeting held the other night.
Okay.
So the rear yard, we do show an existing condition at about 48.9 feet. 30 feet is the required amount under Article 53. However, we would be reducing that down to about 22.36, and we see that in plan view. It's consistent with the setbacks of the buildings, both left and right. Last but not least would be parking. We are requesting relief for the 1 additional parking space that would be required. Changing this from a 3 to a 4 triggers 1 violation under Article 53. That says that any additional units being proposed have to comply with the parking requirement, even where currently there is no parking on the property. Changing it from 3 to 5 units actually required more parking. We feel that requesting the variance for 1 additional space is less impactful than the original proposal for 5. So we would be requesting the 1 parking space variance. Let's jump forward a bit. If we can go to some of the, this is a good one to go as well. So we're showing our building, the buildings both left and right, as well as the buildings left and right of those are shown here in context. The green area remains as open space. The extent of our building is here in the gray hatched area. We do show our deck that are open. We'll show those in the renderings in a moment, but we don't extend back any further than what 379 Maverick is, and slightly further back than 375 Maverick. And that's something that we covered in the abutters meeting. Specifically, the concerns were related to privacy. They didn't want windows on this side of the building peering into their deck or their building. And we've committed to not having windows, obviously, on that side of the building. We jump to the next slide, please. Just quick view of our existing conditions. This obviously would be entirely reskinned, and I'll show you that in the rendering view in a moment. Next slide, please. I'm just showing the back of our building and the relationship to the buildings to the left. Next slide. So our lower level, as I mentioned, we're not expanding living space to the basement. This has some flood zone issues that would not permit habitable space at this lower level. So tenant storage and mechanical complying with the flood requirements of the intended use for this lower level. Next slide, please. This is our main level. Would be a 2-bedroom unit taking up the entire level, as well as the vestibule and stairwell for access to the upper levels. Next slide, please. Here, we are showing 2 units currently, but the change, again, based upon the abutters meeting, the abutters comments last week, we would simply be combining this into 1 unit, so about 1,300 square feet. Likely would remain a 2-bedroom, maybe a 2-bedroom plus with a study, but this would be reduced down to 1 unit at this level. Next slide, please. And our 3rd level will be 2 single-bedroom units, and these would have access to the roof deck. The front unit would be access from the stairwell, and the rear from a spiral staircase. Next slide, please. And then showing the roof deck. One of the other changes I will point out is that we did show a small head house on this for the proposal for the roof deck. That is being removed, and it will be a skylight hatch entirely. Next slide, please. Showing our elevation, the height of our building again remains the same. Next slide. Showing our left side elevation with the addition and the spiral staircase to the roof deck. Next slide. Rear elevation with the decks and the spiral staircase. Next slide. And then this is our right side elevation. As I indicated, we do not show any windows on this side, so the privacy concern of direct abutters on the right could be addressed. Next slide. So just some of our renderings. We could probably go through these relatively quickly and jump back if there's any specific questions, but obviously a complete change in the facade of the building, going to a more contemporary modern look, very similar to what we see immediately next door to the right of our property. And I know we had some of that in the photos earlier. Next slide, please. Head-on view, next slide. And then just showing from the left side. Next slide. Showing our rear with the decks, and again, that spiral staircase we talked about, and then the materials that we're proposing for the roof deck, not the traditional railings that we typically see on roof decks. Those probably more likely to be the glass panels or a cable system. Next slide. Head-on view of the rear. Next slide. And a better look of the roof. Now that area that we see over to the right, that triangular sort of hump would be removed. We showed a plan at the butters meeting, which came after when we submitted our plans to JPNA for tonight, that has been removed entirely and is simply just a flat hatch that accesses out onto the roof deck. Next slide, please. And just a different view from the back. Next slide. And actually, I think that's it. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I just want to jump in here real quick. It is the JPNA's policy that we will only vote on a project with an updated refusal letter.
And
So
we can vote on the 5 units, Rachel. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. We're just going to change it to 4.
But the problem is we are not going to vote on something that isn't the final scenario.
Then we'll leave it at 5 then. That's fine. Leave it as presented.
but you're not going to be presenting 5 to the ZBA.
No, but if it means proceeding with the vote tonight, yeah, that's what
Unfortunately, we can't do that though, Richard. I mean, these are the policies of our organization. I mean, this is the way it's always been.
So we were asked in a butters meeting after we submitted our plans to you for changes, to consider changes. What we're representing is that we will consider those changes to actually reduce the project, which is, I would think, something that would be, a positive step for some of the concerns that come out of the butters meeting.
It's definitely a positive step for Richard, but I think you would understand more than anyone else that we're creating a precedent by not following the rule. And we need to follow the rule.
Yeah, I don't understand. Maybe I don't understand the rule. So
the rule is that your ZBA refusal letter, your ISD refusal letter needs to be what it is that you're presenting.
Yeah.
So what has happened in the past is that in the past, people have come to us with a ZBA refusal letter and then made changes to what they made changes to the plan itself. And therefore the ZBA considers the vote from the community invalid. So in order to make sure that the vote from us is as valid as possible, we've asked for the final iteration of the project, a ZBA letter that matches the presentation that occurs, and then the vote that we make matches that ZBA letter and or matches what's been submitted to ISD and then goes to the ZBA to accurately represent the community. And so our concern is that we have, especially lately in the past several months, kicked back several presentations from developers because they have not had a ZBA letter in hand. So that matches the presentation. So if we let you go forward, when several times in the past several months, we have said to other developers, no, you can't present, no, you can't have a vote because what you're presenting has not been submitted to ISD, therefore you don't have a letter, then we're opening ourselves up to all those other developers saying, hey, wait a second, you let Richard go ahead and do it.
No, I know. We don't want that, Margaret. That's for sure.
But I think
I understand.
I would say that we have worked very hard as an organization to have very clear rules and to have rules that are written and implemented against every developer the exact same way. And you have always said that you are happy to follow the rules as long as the rules are posted and are the same for everyone.
I'm not disagreeing with your rules. I guess what I'm saying is it's from an efficiency standpoint, it's up to you. If you want us to come back to go through planning and zoning and then come back for a vote?
No, we just need an updated ZBA.
Okay, I can certainly do that. We do have to submit our plans anyway for ZBA, but we're on the agenda this evening. This came up literally after we had agreed to post for tonight, and it came up as part of the abutters process. So we had made that commitment to the abutters, and that's what we're presenting. So if you want us to come back with an updated refusal letter for a vote and take, another slot, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
And Richard, just for the record, we do appreciate you listening to the abutters, and this is kind of an interesting situation, but we do have to have the correct refusal letter to match so that I can ensure that what the JPNA votes is not going to get misconstrued that, oh, they voted yes on 4 units, but no on 5. You know, it's easier. So yes, we will have you come
Not a
back next
problem.
month.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll work
Yeah.
on getting that over and tentatively look at June. Is that
Yes, yes, we can guarantee you a slot in June, absolutely.
perfect?
And I understand that this is probably viewed as punitive, and it is not meant to be punitive. We do I want to just reiterate what Rachel said, that we do appreciate the change. We just, because in the last several months, we've kicked back several presentations, we need to maintain that consistency.
No, I don't have an issue with the rule. I was looking for more for efficiency for the process here. So if that's the rule, I I'm fine with that. I just want to understand what, I didn't know if you meant I had to go back to P and Z and start that process over.
No.
Okay, that's fine.
beginning
We
next
can do
month.
that for June then. Perfect.
Okay, so just I thank you to everyone for your patience while we kind of like work through that issue. To summarize it and make it really easy, basically what it means is that the 377 Maverick Street, which was presented this evening, will be presented again next month to the JPNA, and we will vote on it next month. So when you receive your ballot this week, this project will not be included.
Margaret, just real quickly, I know we probably do have people here that, participated based upon it being on the agenda. Does it make sense for us to try to address any questions that might be tonight, or do we want to just hold off?
Let me see if there are any real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it is 8:15, and I do know that a number of abutters are here for the 230 Everett Street. So.
Margaret, if I may, we went from 7 units to 5 units, and right now everything in ISD is still moving terribly slow. And I apologize. I want to be respectful of the JPNA and all the neighbors who came out, but just want to be very forthright in saying that our refusal letter as of today still has 7 units, though it's in queue, and our plans examiner has told us that he will get back to us. So I just I want to offer that as
I can sort of confirm what Mark is saying, and Mark probably can speak to this as well. And I'm not putting the blame on ISD, but we're having a very difficult time convincing plans examiners to review plans, which sometimes may be for projects, Margaret, multiple times. In fact, they're getting to the point where when they do that, they either take an awful long time to get back to us, or even suggest to us at times to refile the whole project. So we're working diligently to try to catch up with these updates and work it with the process. Unfortunately, the process, and no criticism of JPNA or the abutters process, that process doesn't really work with the way ISD operates. So, a lot of times we are making changes based upon these communications, and unfortunately, we're not able to even turn those around quickly.
So,
377 is a little different, but
Richard, unfortunately, what the reason for the rule is that it's sometimes the opposite scenario.
Yes.
Okay. And we need to keep the rule the same, no matter whether it's in a benefit to the neighborhood or a detriment to the neighborhood, unfortunately. If we do not have the appropriate refusal letter, we unfortunately cannot move forward to a vote. And that unfortunately is just the blanket rule. And I understand totally where you're coming from. Situations are drastically different than they were possibly in the past, but that is the rule, and we are unfortunately sticking, well, not unfortunately, we are sticking to it.
Yeah, and maybe, and I'm not saying, based upon just the fact that I have 2 of them tonight that deal with this, I know in some instances, including, where we're actually looking at, matters that go to the board or our abutters meetings, projects tend to get better. When I say better for the community, based on community feedback, I think it's just, and again, food for thought. I think it's, certainly understandable if a project gets bigger, if somebody, increases the size of something, increases a nonconformity, adds a unit, reduces parking. Those are all impactful issues that I think, certainly would count, but perhaps there's a way. I know maybe it doesn't get resolved tonight. I'm speaking sort of generally. Perhaps there's a way we look at these that, if there's reductions that are being proposed, perhaps that gets put into the record, is that this is the commitment that that the developer makes, or states on the record, these are the things that we're going to proceed with, pending an updated refusal. But I just think sometimes the process.
I think that, but for the sake of time, we kind of need to end this conversation, but I think that that's something that the board will take under consideration and that we can have a conversation about afterwards.
Yeah, and I think we'll also loop in, I don't know if she's still here now, Nathalia, our ONS advisor. Oh, she is here.
Yeah.
You know, about the discrepancies between ISD and the neighborhood process, and see if we can come to some sort of a conclusion that works for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't work with ISD as closely as you guys might think I do, but I'll be happy to get Jessica Thomas, who's great. See if she can give me an update as to why everything's taking, you know, the time it is taking, and see if we can get to a happy medium so we're not backlogging all the developments.
Yeah, and I to make this last comment, I just, you know, I feel that, you know, when we go through the process, and even if we do have, sometimes changes do occur, and in the interest of transparency, we're telling you, you know, for example, on 377, I'm telling you, we're going to a 4-unit. I didn't have to say that. I could have went forward and said, let you vote on a 5, and it is what it is, and then decide to make my change before I appear before the board. What we're trying to do, though, is, you know, be transparent about the change that we've made. And I feel, you know, whether they support me or don't on my projects, we do have people here tonight that did come out for this meeting. We did flyer for it. And I think it's important that we at least are able to get the presentation and get the comments done. You know, and even if we have to come back for a vote, that makes sense.
If we had stopped, if at 8:13 we had stopped and we had gone on to comments, I would have said, hey, like, let's answer the questions. Absolutely. It's now 8:20. And we still have, like, we still need to decide if we're going to go forward with the presentation for Everett Street, because it seems like they have the same issue with their ISD letter as well.
We have to follow the same rule, unfortunately.
So, yeah. So, and I will say, one of the pieces of feedback that we get the most often from the community is that they want us to end on time. So I know it seems, I know it doesn't seem always fair that we have to cut people off, or we have to say things but have to move forward. But if we had stopped at 8:13, I would have said, hey, let's take several minutes of questions, but it's now 8:20 and we have not even heard from 230 Everett Street. So what I would say is, if you have questions for the presentation that Richard just completed, for the 82 Webster Street, if you could put them in the chat and we will forward them to him.
377.
Pardon me, 377. I was like flipping through the agenda really quick. If you do have questions or comments, if you could include them in the chat, and we will try to convey them to him so that you do get that community feedback, because I agree with you, that is important. We are certainly happy to do that, but as it is 8:20, and if we are if Mark, do you wish to present this evening knowing that you're not going to have a vote?
I personally think that you should wait.
Yeah, I mean,
But he's not asking for a vote, so why at least
he can present
give
if he
information.
wants to, but it's not going to go to a vote. So what's the point? I don't see that.
Well, the point is that I think you have people here that would like to see the update.
Well,
There are people
I
that
also
aren't-
I understand what you're saying, but it's not like we're asking people to come back next week. Like it'll be next month.
I know,
with
but
the same
so,
scenario.
Andrew, if I could just cut in, the reason I want to give him that opportunity is because
Oh, of course,
Richard
of
got the
course.
opportunity to present his project.
Yep.
And so I don't think it's fair for us to say to Mark, like, oh, you don't get to do yours.
I don't disagree.
So
with
I'm,
you.
so Mark, what are your thoughts? Do you wish to present, or do you wish to hold off knowing you're going to have to come back next month?
I'll be brief. Let's run through it, but there's a few updates that I'm excited to share with everybody. And I know that I see a lot of neighbors here, and want to be respectful of everyone's time. Even if there's no vote, we'll do it next time.
Okay, he's done with it.
Okay. If we could ask people to mute themselves. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Svatsky. I'm here on behalf of the development team for 230 Everett Street. Joining me tonight is Karina Meha and Chris Prudhomme. Chris is our architect from Zephyr. Before we begin, I'd just like to thank and acknowledge the JPNA board, and also Nathalia from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, and thank everyone for joining us tonight. We can move to the next slide. We're just going to run through the zoning. I'll bring you through the timeline quickly. We'll look at a few changes and renderings in the context of the street, and open it up for some discussion. Next slide, please. In short, 230 Everett Street, we have a 4-story, 5-unit building with 6 off-street parking spaces We've pulled this building back. We've added a planting area at the back of the sidewalk. We've removed the roof decks, and there's a few other significant changes that we'll get into shortly. Next slide, please. As far as the zoning, there's really 5 areas that I'd like to highlight for everyone here. First is use, which is multifamily residential as a 5-unit building, which would require a variance. The next would be lot size, lot area for additional dwelling. This would require a variance as well. As far as height and number of stories, both of those would be triggered for variances, though I would point out that since our last meeting, we've compressed our ceiling height some. We found about 1.5 feet to give back. And, you know, we're hoping that that's at least a small compromise. In the 4th story, I would also point out, is pulled back almost 14 feet off of the front. So its visibility is really reduced. Finally, our open space, when we removed the roof decks, that is something which triggered roof decks count towards open space. They're great for that, but a number of our neighbors had mentioned that they would prefer us to forego those roof decks, and as a consideration for those direct abutters, we went ahead and deleted both roof decks. And finally, side yard setback would also be triggered. Before I move to the next slide, just one thing to point out, and I don't mean to say this in any way aggressively, but this lot at 45 feet by 100 feet, we could subdivide this down the middle in this zone here and build 2 pretty generous 2 families, thus 4 units, you know, as of right, if you will. Just file for your permits, no discussion, etc. I think that there's been a really healthy, robust discussion here. We'll go through the timeline shortly, but I think this has been a great process. We've really come down from our initial 7 units. I'll point out that 7 to 5 units is 30%. That's not the same as 35 to 33 units. And so we're giving wherever we can. Next slide, please. Floor plans, I won't spend too much time here, except to say we added a planting area. Some of our groundwater recharge and civil engineering concerns would go in that area. You'll notice that we pulled the building back and some of that planting area at the front. This on the 1st floor is our handicap accessible unit, and the 2nd floor consists of 2 floor throughs, which is to say units which exist exclusively on the 2nd floor, one on the front and one on the back. Those would be 2-bedroom units. Next slide, please. The 3rd and 4th floor are units 4 and 5. They're duplex units, which is to say two levels. The 1st floor, the 3rd floor is living, dining, kitchen, and the 4th floor is the bedroom level. Next slide, please. Rendering from looking straight on. One, we looked at the windows. We've talked a lot about how we can add some additional context into the design. And so double hung windows are a feature that we see up and down the block, perhaps instead of the larger expansive glass openings that we previously had. So that was a change that we were happy to make. Same goes for the color. In honesty, design review and the BPDA will sort of ultimately give us a nudge on color, but this is something that we think is maybe more typical of the block. And so another change that we were happy to make was just the materiality and color. Next slide, please. And so again, this is that looking down that block. We have not had a chance. This is a good example actually of how the windows were. We just got this rendering back earlier today, and apologies that it wasn't updated in time. Next slide, please. Our timeline, we started this process in January at the P&Z with 7 units. We've talked about the roof decks, we've talked about the unit counts, the planting areas. I think one area where the community process really worked is also the driveway. We had initially talked about flipping that to the left instead of reusing the existing curb cut. And a number of our neighbors pointed out very quickly that there is a fire hydrant there. And in doing so, we would lose at least one street spot. So we worked back with our civil engineer and we were able to configure the driveway so that that existing curb cut, if you like the curb cut, we keep the curb cut. It's like Obama's healthcare. Sorry. Next slide, please. These are just some commitments that we've made throughout this process. Fencing and screening around the entire property. We've looked at this through sort of a resiliency lens in terms of flood prevention, flood proofing for the future. Really proud of our foundation approach and our approach to groundwater concerns. That ties back to the notion of resiliency and how this will be built, our approach to foundations. Rodent control, something we've offered to monitor on a bi-monthly basis. Parking spaces being deeded to the units, and finally professional management for the building, which would include things like janitorial services for trash going out and coming in. Next slide, please. So I just conclude by saying that I'm really proud of the work that we've done here. I think we've met individually with over 15 different neighbors. We've listened carefully, we've engaged with everybody thoughtfully, and I think we've made some meaningful adjustments that have made for a better project. And with that, we sincerely appreciate your time and your support.
There was only one question and you answered at the end. It was about parking and whether they would be deeded. And you stated that they would be, so.
Okay, the time is 8:28. I am going to call out that I believe we had one person who was nominated earlier, and that was Joshua Smith, and he did join us here on the, or at least I saw him earlier. I don't see him
Yeah,
now.
he was there. Yep.
Okay, Josh, if you're still here and you would like to accept your nomination, please take yourself off mute and then we can confirm in front of everyone else. A reminder that nominations are still open. If you would like to submit a nomination through the chat or make a nomination of anyone, now is your, Josh, there you are. Josh, would you like to accept the nomination for the JPNA board?
I accept my nomination for the JPNA board. Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do we have any other? You've got some applause, so that's excellent. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate anyone else at this time?
Nobody in the chat. Mark Savatsky is nominating Bessie King, but I don't know if he doesn't know if he can nominate her or not, or whether she wants to be nominated.
Thank you, Mark. You're so sweet. I don't think I can be, but I appreciate it.
Do you live in Jeffreys Point?
I don't know. I don't know your boundaries. So I'm like attending.
If you
I'm
don't,
on Saratoga.
no, unfortunately not. No.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Is that Old Eagle Hill or is there a different neighborhood?
It depends on where she is on Saratoga. It might be Maverick Central.
Thank you.
That's it on the chat.
I think we lost Margaret. I think she just got booted. So thank you everyone for attending. I don't believe we have anything else. Board members, do we have anything else?
I do not.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Again, look out for ballots, and we will just be voting on that one project, 82 Webster Street. And thank you so much, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, everybody. The board's going to remain behind, so if everybody could log off, that would be great. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Richard.
Mary, you owe me on catnip.
Oh, he is a very spoiled boy.
Remember you said you were going to do some catnip little toy?
I do. I owe you a catnip toy. I do.
I'm claiming it.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it. I will get crocheting.
Thanks. I did want to ask you guys something about the cleanup.
Oh, Andrew, you can stop recording.
Oh, thank you.
As I would like to go, where are you? Can you send